I run for a lot of reasons: to organize and quiet my mind, to sweat out all the chaos, and to listen. Sometimes to my friend running next to me, but a lot of times to books and stories on history and science and the Enneagram. And I like to let it all bounce around up there in my head. And these stories twist and turn and always lead me to the same question of how can we find that world where there is a healthy planet and sweeping human rights and functional conflict. And I always come back to this same fable as a starting place, little questionable origin, but an elder is talking to a young child, and she says, "There are two wolves in my heart warring. One is peaceful and kind and brave, and one is dangerous and petty and mean." And the child wants to know who will win the war, and she says, "The one that I feed." Then we have Werner Herzog, a German art house painter who calls civilization a thin layer of ice under which there is an ocean of darkness and chaos. And in this worldview, we are always on the edge of a cruel anarchy, just barely contained by polite society. This is thin veneer theory, and it's the fear that we are ultimately animals ready to tear each other apart given the opportunity. Thin veneer is a newer term, but this is an old idea. This is from the 16th century. And now our country's two leading political parties, while very different, both campaign on law and order because thin veneer theory is very appealing for some reason. Take the Stanford prison experiment. In 1971, Philip Zimbardo conducted this experiment because he set out to reform the corrupt prison industrial complex. Very noble cause. Volunteers were assigned to be prisoners or guards and act the part. And notoriously in 5 days, the experiment was shut down because everyone became increasingly unhinged. In Psych 101, we are taught that these previously peaceful students became monsters because of the uniform and the opportunity. But in fact, Zimbardo is overheard coaching his students and begging them to act the part because they all want to help people. They want to reform the system. So the results are contrived. And rather than being a cautionary tale about prison and social roles and our monstrous nature, instead we have a cautionary tale about how our bias can derail science, and how we always want to believe in the most sadistic wolf, that wolf is the hungriest. And maybe there's a reason why we've been telling this story for so long. It's an old story, and our leaders want us to believe we need law and order, and why is that? The Stanford prison experiment was debunked by 1973, but in the early 2000s as a college student, I was still taught that this was proof that people would be monsters in the right uniform. So our brains are wired to focus on danger for survival. It's great for avoiding bear dens, but it's not an accurate reading of history or humanity. Maybe instead of asking, should we avoid two threats, man or bear, maybe the question is, why do we have this dichotomy? Thin veneer theory is woven into our cultural narrative. A lot of us read this book or watched the show Yellow Jackets. We have these stories about people who, without civilization, descend into savagery. This movie tagline is, "What separates man from beast? Not much." Yet, we find something really different when we look at real human stories. In 1965, these 6 Tongan teenagers were bored, stole a boat, ended up shipwrecked on an island for 1.5 years, and their story is of kindness and conflict resolution and spiritual attunement and teamwork. But goodness doesn't serve those in power who benefit from the systems they run to protect us. Fear is a more effective motivator than contentment. But it's better for our health to feed the brave, kind wolf. Kelly McGonigal researches the biology of courage, and she proved that stress alone doesn't actually raise our blood pressure. But stress, while believing stress is bad for you, produces worse health outcomes. So beliefs can change your body. Madhulina Roy Chowdhury wrote The Neuroscience of Gratitude and Its Effects on the Brain. And she proved that the impact of gratitude starts in the body at the neurotransmitter level. And dopamine and serotonin, those feel-good chemical messengers, make us feel really good when we say thank you. So feeding our brave, kind wolf is good for our bodies. But what about for our society? If we feed the good guy wolf, what kind of leaders might we elect? What kind of systems of governance can we create? We can find these moments in history where people organized for the betterment of each other. We lived through that. We can praise each other for the good that we are and the good that we do. But what about a lasting system for peace? The Dutch created sociocracy. It's a system of governance that is founded in transparency and shared decision-making. There's ranked choice voting. This happens internationally and in some local US elections. And it promotes civilized campaigning because candidates who collaborate do better than sharply polarizing ones who compete. Maybe, though, it's yet to be created. Maybe it's yet to be born. So if we spend some more time saying thank you, electing leaders who believe in the good of people, trusting people, what kind of system can we create? How can we do something different?